During this current pandemic of the coronavirus, we've been able to see how white people have blatantly expressed racism towards an entire ethnic group. This mistreatment of a group of people on the basis of ethnicity is also prevalent in the novel Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko that describes the Native American experience post-colonization. The protagonist of the book is a boy named Teo, who throughout the story struggles with his inner turmoil pertaining to his biracialism and his PTSD from fighting in the war. In this video, we will be exploring how Silko conveys her messages about colonization through several different forms of criticism: feminist criticism, psychoanalytical criticism, and postcolonial criticism. Throughout the novel Ceremony, Silko emphasizes the lingering effects of colonization among Native communities. Firstly, the white people's colonization of the Native lands has given rise to the problems of alcoholism throughout the Native reservations. In one particular section of the novel, Teo and his friends are at a bar drinking rapidly while angrily reflecting on the circumstances that they have endured as Native Americans. On page 55, it reads, "You know," Emo said, slurring the words, "us Indians deserve something better than this goddamn dried-up country around here. What we need is what they got. We fought their war for them. But they've got everything, and we don't get shit, do we? Huh?" They all shouted, "Hell no," loudly, and they drank the beer faster, and Emo raised the bottle, not bothering to pour the whiskey into the little glass anymore. "They took our land, they took everything, so let's get our hands on white women." Teo's friends are in a drunken frenzy, enraged at the realization of how white people stole everything from the natives despite the natives having served them in the war. One form of criticism we can apply to this passage is postcolonial criticism, which examines the repercussions of colonization in the story. By analyzing this passage through a postcolonial lens, we can focus specifically on the magnitude of loss that the natives have experienced as a result of white people stealing from them. Even after the natives helped the white people fight in the war, the white people still confined them onto reservations and denied them many of the freedoms available to the white men. This point is further emphasized when one of Teo's friends says, "What we need is what they got." This directly calls out how the natives yearn to have all of the possessions and comforts that white people do because the white people stole these things from them in the first place. Alcohol is a large player in the relationship between white people and Native Americans. Alcohol can serve as an escape from the reality of the confines that white people have placed upon them and simulate freedom for the natives that was taken from them by white people. However, alcohol is a device that white people use to continually oppress the natives by making them dependent on it so that they continually spend money on it, which directly benefits the white people's businesses. In their state of rage, Teo's friends also exclaim that they want to get their hands on white women. Looking at this from a feminist lens, it is made very apparent how the white women are being portrayed as objects that Teo's friends feel they are entitled to take advantage of in exchange for their land having been stolen. This dehumanizes white women from being authentic individuals with rights to their own body and turns them merely into products of transaction. This dehumanization of white women by the Native men parallels the dehumanization of the natives by white people. So, the treatment of white women as well as the perception of white women by these Native American men serves as a retaliation, though futile, to the treatment enforced upon them by the white people. Furthermore, we can analyze this passage through a psychoanalytic lens. Psychoanalytic criticism is Sigmund Freud's theory on the unconscious mind. An integral aspect of his theory is that human behavior is largely driven by the forces of sexual desire and aggression. In this passage, both of those concepts are made very apparent. Teo's friends claiming that they will get their hands on white women in response to being enraged about how white people have stolen from them demonstrates how they are transforming their infuriation and anger about how the white people have plundered their lands and into plundering white women's bodies. In addition, the fact that Teo's friends are getting drunk means that they are altering their state of consciousness. Freud theorized that the psyche is composed of three components: the id, ego, and superego. The id is the primitive part of the mind responsible for sexual and aggressive desires, the superego operates as a moral conscience that conforms to societal expectations, and the ego is the realistic part that mediates the opposing influences of the id and the superego. As Teo's friends alter their state of consciousness, their superego starts to have less impact on the ego, and so the id takes control. This allows them to openly express their sexual and aggressive desires to fornicate with white women.
Colonization has had such a profound impact that even centuries later, the ideas and actions of many Native Americans are still affected by it. Much of the novel focuses on developing Teo's thought process, so that makes it a prime piece of evidence to explore from a psychoanalytical lens, particularly the deeper forces affecting Teo's thoughts and actions. In one segment of the story, Teo consults Bettany, an indigenous medicine man, saying, "They sent me to this place after the war. It was white. Everything in this place was white. Except for me. I was invisible, but I wasn't afraid there. I didn't feel things sneaking up on me. I didn't cry for Rocky or Josiah. There were no voices and no dreams. Maybe I belong back in that place. That's true, the old man said. You could go back to that white place. But if you're going to do that, you might as well go down there with the rest of them, sleeping in the mud, vomiting in cheap wine, rolling over women. Die that way and get it over with. At first glance, this passage encompasses dreams, death, and superego, which are all components of Freud's theory of psychoanalysis. In this passage, Theo is talking to Bettany the medicine man, revealing a revelation of sorts that he has experienced post-war. Firstly, Theo mentions feeling invisible and out of place. This describes how Theo feels like an outsider, similar to the separation of races with the power struggle that occurs during colonization. However, Theo says that he isn't scared and that he doesn't feel targeted. This is drastically opposite of the historical treatment of non-white people, and in a way, it possibly shows his acceptance of the perpetuated violence and actions against it, especially after the war and witnessing such violence. He kind of becomes numb in a sense. This relates to when he says he doesn't feel anything, and even mentions that he wasn't worried about Rocky and Josiah dying, despite agonizing over it for the first half of the text. Theo also says that this white space is dreamless. The dream state is where the unconscious fears are normally surfaced, and if they come to fruition in the conscious state, they tend to cause trauma and fear. So, Theo having this dreamless state alludes to a lack of fear. Alcohol is a coping mechanism in many ways and a prevalent problem among Native Americans in this book. The effects of substance usually lead to numbing and forgetting, similar to the feeling that Theo is describing to Bettany within the passage. Colonization has caused much trauma in the psyche of Native Americans, which leads them to resort to alcohol as a temporary escape from the trauma itself. Additionally, Thanatos, also known as the death drive, is a large pillar of psychoanalysis. Theo's first-hand experience through the war and losing Rocky and Josiah is a large driving force behind his actions, and something that clearly haunts him because he says that maybe he should have just stayed in the white place. Bettany's reply to this further exhibits and reveals how much of what is tormenting Theo is actually a result of colonization. Bettany says that if Theo is to give up, he can join everyone else in drinking cheap wine and rolling over women. These two characteristics of the other Native American men distinctly draws these actions to the effects of postcolonialism hundreds of years ago, and the starting of segregating and forcing natives off their native land and onto reservations that still persists today. It emphasizes how alcoholism and the relationship between Native men and women and Native men and white women has become normalized among Native American communities as a result of colonization. In conclusion, colonization has had profound effects on Native American communities, from alcoholism to altered cognition and decision-making. One such struggle is the battle to revive their communities from being stricken with widespread alcoholism, to escape this cycle that they've fallen victim to in the past, and to recover their independence. Thank you very much for listening to our little discussion about ceremonies themes through different critical lenses, and I hope you have a very good day.